So this question was originally posed to me in a Q&A, and I decided to set it aside for another time, like for example this video, just because I feel like it does require a little bit more time to go into. So let's talk about a potential trading system in Injustice 2. The way this question was originally posed to me was in very many different ways. It kind of encompassed everything in regen tokens, source crystals, gear abilities, shaders. It kind of incorporated all of that. And whilst I do think a trading system is possible to figure out and make work with Injustice 2, it's probably not a good idea. We've seen trading systems in the past that haven't worked out very well, and we've seen trading systems in the past that do work out, but just for the type of game that Injustice is trying to be, it's really just not a good idea at all. One of the big things that Injustice 2 talked about a lot when they were originally marketing themselves was the gear system, the every battle defines you part of the game, which was originally a big complaint among the fighting game community. If you don't remember, I think it was E3 that they originally announced the gear system. A lot of people on Reddit, a lot of people among the FGC were already calling it a dead game because it was going to be broken in competitive gameplay, despite the fact that multiple people at NetherRealm said that the gear is not impacting competitive gameplay at all, and that there will be a ranked competitive mode where you do not have to play with gear on. No matter how many times NetherRealm said that, the community was still going crazy about the gear system. So NetherRealm tried to make it very clear that it wasn't pay to win or pay to cosmetic. There's no way to pay for gear. And I feel like that's something that was really valuable for NetherRealm in particular going into Injustice 2. So incorporating some type of trading system wouldn't really work with this system because it's inherently abusable. For example, if you could trade source crystals, which I don't think you would be allowed to, but assuming you were able to, you could effectively spend real money to get gear. Let's say the community ends up valuing the Staff of Grayson at like 7,000 source crystals. Well, then I can go ahead and I can effectively just buy the Staff of Grayson by buying 7,000 source crystals and finding somebody to trade with. It effectively would become quote-unquote pay to win, despite the fact that the competitive game mode doesn't use gear. It's still probably not a very good idea. But even when you take out the idea of source crystals, you still have some problems, right? So let's get rid of source crystals. We'll remove that from the conversation because I think it's pretty fair to say that that's pretty abusable. Well, let's look at the other currencies. Guild tokens, guild credits I believe they're called. Regular credits, regen tokens, all of this stuff. If this stuff was tradable, it would also be pretty bad because you could effectively use them as currency to buy gear as well. That wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, inherently. As awesome as it would be to go ahead and say, hey, I want to exchange my like 600 regen tokens and my 500,000 gold for a Staff of Grayson, as awesome as that would be, it's again very abusable. Imagine somebody in my position who happens to have an audience, or even someone with a much larger audience, or even somebody with a much smaller audience could get away with saying, hey, I want a Staff of Grayson, who in the community has a Staff of Grayson to give to me, and then I can effectively just trade them one regen token in order to get the Staff of Grayson. Now, there are systems you can have in place to counteract abuse like that. For example, maybe you can't trade a regen token, just one singular regen token, for a Staff of Grayson. Maybe you have to do like a ton of gear or something, and then you have to have like a certain amount of value in your trade in order to accept it. Unfortunately, that type of system is another hurdle to go through. That is another huge step to be able to take. Implementing an anti-abuse system like that might even take longer than implementing the system, the trading system itself, because you effectively have to create a market of your own and determine how much value each item is worth. I don't think a system like this is inherently flawed. I just think it's a system that would take a long time to figure out, and I definitely don't think they have the time to figure it out for Injustice 2, but it is an interesting discussion for potential future games with gear like Mortal Kombat 11 or Injustice 3. I certainly do hope they continue the trend of gear because I love the gear system. Now, I should probably state that I don't think this is a good idea. I don't think NetherRealm should incorporate a trading system into any of their future games if they continue to do the gear system. I just don't think it's very healthy. One of the really valuable things about the gear system is it gives something for players to do offline rather than playing online. This is something that they can actively do and play the game every single day for. If you take away that value by incorporating a trade system where they can trade like 1 million common pieces of gear in order to get one piece of epic gear, probably a really bad idea. I just feel as though there's probably better ways to reward people than a trading system. I think a trading system is very attractive on face value because the first thing you think of is, hey, I can get this Staff of Grayson. I don't have Staff of Grayson. I want Staff of Grayson. I have gear. People will value my gear. Let's see if I can sell my gear for Staff of Grayson. People usually end up making really bad decisions. People are very bad at valuing their own stuff. So NetherRealm really would probably have to set exact values for each item, because if they didn't, you would end up in these really weird situations where people would end up selling stuff that they didn't realize was anywhere near as valuable as it was. I mean, this is going to be a pretty weird example, but look at Counter-Strike, look at RuneScape. These are both games with ecosystems, economies within them that have been abused ever since they existed. People, getting quote-unquote scammed, but basically you trick someone into believing that your item is far more valuable than it is. It would be very easy to be able to go, trust me, my Firestorm helmet is like super ultra rare, it might as well be a legendary, so you should probably give me your Staff of Grayson for it. That's a very easy thing to trick people into. As silly as it sounds, it would be incredibly abusable, even when you take out all of the currencies that could be used, like source crystals, regen tokens, guild credits themselves. Even if you just look at gear to gear, it's an incredibly abusable system. Now, if NetherRealm was going to do this in future titles, again, I would heavily recommend them not to, and I don't think they ever will. It's probably just something that NetherRealm isn't interested in because of multiple reasons that I've listed in this video, and probably several more that I'm not even thinking of. If they were to do it, they would need to make it very, very specific. Legendaries can only be traded to Legendaries, Epics can only be traded to Epics. We have a rough value system in the game right now. If you hover over items in your inventory, you see that they can sell for a certain amount. So maybe you could say, hey, you can't trade an item unless it's like within 100 credits of each other in value. That's actually a pretty elegant way of doing it, but at that point, what's the point? I just don't see the value in it anymore. Basically, the only way you can legitimize a trading system is by limiting it so strongly that it ends up being not what you want it to be. It's not a full-on trade system the way you would truly want. And think about that. For this video so far, I haven't even mentioned the idea of a third-party website. Imagine how abusable that would be. If you didn't have that credit limit in place, you could do some pretty shady stuff with third-party websites. What if somebody opened up, injustice2gearforsale.com or whatever, and they said, hey, you spend $5 on my website, that will give you X amount of credits, we'll come trade you, or you spend money on my website, I'll come give you a Staff of Grayson, stuff like that. And then people can end up getting scammed through websites like that, and it's just not a good idea. Especially because, we're talking about a game that a large variety of ages play. You've got people 18 and up who I think would still be probably susceptible to this type of manipulation, and yet they're more likely to be better at making decisions than, say, even, as young as a 10-year-old. Whilst everything about a trading system on face value might originally seem very, very awesome and valuable, in practicality, when you end up laying it all out, it's just not good. At the end of the day, you want your ecosystem within the game to be enjoyable, and if people are getting scammed out of items, it stops being enjoyable, especially because it takes so much time to work through and achieve all of your goals in the game. And I know it's kind of lame to say, hey, this really cool system can't be implemented because of, some members of the community who would abuse it. It's kind of true. If that abuse is in place and is possible, it's probably not an experience you want to subject your community to. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. What do you guys think about a trading system? Were you in favor of it before watching this video? Are you in favor of it now? Let me know in the comment section. Again, I love discussions like this because it gives NetherRealm feedback if anybody at NetherRealm happens to stumble across this video. So again, thank you guys for watching. My name has been BILBZY, and I will see you in tomorrow's video.